Shalum, shalom and welcome. Welcome, O set apart nation, drawn by the Almighty Father Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. And I reference John 6:44 often. My name is Symmanayah, and this is White Rose Family. This is part 7 to the playlist entitled The Closing Scroll, where I present updates, signs, warnings, and instructions. In this segment, my brothers and sisters, I want to address the matter again regarding coronaviruses, battles, and losing ground. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, I would make it clear to the words. I would make it clear and present words to define this title, Coronaviruses, Battles, and Losing Ground. But before I do that, let me read the following. Warning and disclaimer. The information contained in White Rose Family represent instructions and warnings to individuals who believe they are drawn by the Almighty Creator Yahuah to Yahusha Mashyach. The content presented centers around end-time realities. Please be advised, the site is not intended for children under 16 years of age due to its content. That clause is put in there to be compliant with the media platform, our brothers and sisters. By continuing forward, you agree to hold Symmanayah harmless of any influence in or actions that arise as a result of watching, listening, and reviewing the content presented. The views expressed do not reflect the owners, management, and or shareholders of this media platform. Please note, I am not affiliated with anyone or organization with similar names. On that note, O Yashar'al, let's get into this segment. My brothers and sisters, currently, I have not witnessed many brothers and sisters speak on this coronaviruses. I spoke of it in another segment, another video, and I want to speak on it more. If you look up the word corona, look up the definition of corona. In some dictionaries and some online periodicals, it would say corona is a noun, and you will see the word crown. Crown. What comes to mind, my brothers and sisters, when you think of a crown? Now, if some of you are focused on your teeth, you might think of the crowns on your teeth. If some of you are focused on royalty, you would think of the crown that a king or a queen, maybe even a prince, would wear. I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, we have entered into end times. There's a great battle of our flesh against the spirit. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, when Adam and Eve, and I'm using the English names, but during the fall of man, we relinquished the crown that was given to us, and we allowed our flesh to take over. If you doubt that, consider when the Almighty Father asked Adam, "Who told you you were naked?" It was through Adam and Eve's rebellion that they let their minds and their brains take over and say that they were naked. It was as though the clothes were saying, "I'm naked." I mean, it was as though the fleshly body was saying, "I'm naked." Disregarding the spirit that they had, they listened to the body say, "I'm naked." It's just like your underwear telling you I need pants or a skirt or a dress. It's just like your undershirt telling you I need a shirt, a sweater, or a jacket. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? But this is what happened, my brothers and sisters. Adam and Eve relinquished the power of the inward man to the flesh. And I've devoted the makings of a series that would explain this more in detail. But I want you to know, my brothers and sisters, during these last days, we've seen types and shadows. We've seen diseases come and go. We've seen diseases become dormant. And we know that there's Ebola, diabetes, cancer, leukemia, muscular dystrophy, arthritis. We know that there are all types of diseases and pestilence going on about, my brothers and sisters. I submit to you this coronavirus is part of the coronaviruses that attacks the lungs. It attacks the place where breath meets water, and a function takes place that I cannot describe in detail, where we find ourselves having blood, and that blood becomes red. Oxygenated blood is red, and it provides nutrients to our cells throughout our bodies, and more, to say the least. And I'm not a doctor nor a biologist, but I say to you, my brothers and sisters, coronaviruses, the common cold, the flu, pneumonia, coronaviruses, but this specific strand called the nCoV, novel coronavirus, or COVID-19, I believe, my brothers and sisters, this is the crown jewel of diseases. And this is one of the diseases that is spoken of in Matthew 24th chapter. And I believe, O Yashar'al, that this disease wants to bring our attention and focus on it. I believe the Most High has said, in the name of Yahusha, I have sent famine to humble you, and you did not humble before me, my children. I sent disease and pestilence, and I continue to send it, and you're not humbling before me, says the Yahuah. Now, are there brothers and sisters earnestly seeking him? Indeed, there are. And I believe that this coronavirus, corona, representing crown, seeks to maintain its crown. And I believe the closing scroll will prove that habitable places are shrinking, my brothers and sisters. And during this battle, during this time of habitable places shrinking, we will see forced movement. We will see the promises of the Most High come to be. Believe it or not, people are evacuating various areas because of the coronavirus. Silently, people think that no one knows that they are moving or trying to find the place of safety or trying to discern where they're supposed to be. There's a battle, Yashar'al. And although the initial battle is trying to identify where should I be to be safe, the battle is for the crown. What would be the ultimate crown? And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, I will present that case. I have presented that case and will continue. Come with me, O Yashar'al. Consider this. As of today, my brothers and sisters, if you were to begin marking the X on this planet on a map, you will see areas that will not appear to be attractive with this widespread coronavirus, COVID-19 specifically. If you look at the food supply, the quality of air, climate change and global warming, if you look at other diseases that are ramping up, that have taken low key. Remember, not shortly before the coronavirus, there was an outbreak of measles. And though the coronavirus is overshadowing that talk about the outbreak of measles and who most widely was spreading it in the United States and parts of the world, now we have the coronavirus. Add this, don't substitute, add this to the compiling other disease, my brothers and sisters, and it will become evidence that habitable places are shrinking on this planet. As of today, my brothers and sisters, the coronavirus, COVID-19, there's reported 95,046 people infected. And these are the ones reported. You see, my brothers and sisters, they don't have enough tests nor manpower to report and test everyone. So I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, this number is probably approaching 1 million plus. Again, I say probably. 3,249 deaths. Again, this may be 32,000. Why? Because there are those that are not reporting it. One nation started calling the COVID-19 virus, they just started saying viral pneumonia, people died, just to change the narrative. But man may try to hide what's unfolding, my brothers and sisters. But make no mistake, it is written, everything that is hidden will be revealed. The Spirit of the Most High is opening our eyes, O Yashar'al. Don't take my word for it. Do the exercise. Mark an X on places becoming uninhabitable. Identify the arrow that points back to the promised land. Let me continue. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, you may be tired of hearing this. But if we search the scriptures, we'll see that we were assigned dominion. We were assigned a crown, given things to rule. And as I stated, I'm working on a series that will completely spell out in more detail about this matter of the crown and restoring the crown that the Almighty Father gave us. Our assigned dominion, my brothers and sisters, was this. Genesis 1:26-27 says, and the Almighty One said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness, and let them rule over the fish of the sea, and over the birds of the heavens, and over the livestock, and over all the earth, and over all the creeping creatures that creep on the ground. And the Almighty One created the man in his image. In the image of the Almighty One, he created him. Male and female, he created them. My brothers and sisters, the time is now to recognize the importance of focusing on the crown that was given us. The crown that this coronavirus do not want us to awaken and see. Let your eyes look forward and your eyelids look straight before you, O Yashar'al. It's time to begin adjusting and adapting to changing conditions. It's time to recognize the awakening that we are witnessing. It's where we will restore. We will be restored in our position and wear the crown that the Almighty Father gave us to rule over the fish, the sea, the birds, the livestock. You see, we were given a crown to rule, not pollute and trash and waste and neglect and take advantage of. And the Almighty Father, through his discipline, will open our eyes, my brothers and sisters. And the wicked one will fight. And the fruit of our wickedness, those who are disobedient, we will find ourselves in the midst of famine, pestilence, and diseases. Search the scriptures, for you will see that plagues came to those who rebelled against the Almighty Father. Diseases come. Be mindful, O Yashar'al, for I have stated before. I've said this. As it is written, the Almighty Father, he reigns on the just and the unjust. To those who are his children, we will discern what we are supposed to do, my brothers and sisters. We will identify things connected from a set-apart perspective, and we will recognize how things are connected regarding the economy. You see, with COVID-19 causing schools to shut down, causing manufacturing plants and processing plants to shut down, causing a disruption in the economy, a tsunami of poverty is coming, O Yashar'al. A tsunami is coming, a virtual and realistic tsunami related to the economy, related to jobs, relating to surviving from a natural perspective is coming, O Yashar'al. And in this great distress, in this great economic distress that is coming, it will yield the mark of the beast, the anti-Messiah, or known as the Antichrist. But remember, O Yashar'al, the scripture says, until he that restraineth is removed. Are you not aware that I've shared this with you, my brothers and sisters? Are you not aware? 2 Thessalonians 2:7, for the secret of lawlessness is already at work, only until he who is now restrained comes out of the midst. Soon and very soon, O Yashar'al, there are those that will be drawn from the four corners of the earth. And though I've seen extreme humbling times causing forced migrations and Yashar'al beginning to come together, and Yashar'al growing stronger in discernment and humbling themselves and yielding to what is true and knowing when and how to get under the blood of the Lamb of Yahusha and rise up in the spirit of set apartness, the power and might of Yahuah in Yahusha's name. Though I have mentioned this so many times and many occasions, it wasn't until today I received more. I believe the spirit of the Most High, and I will talk about this in a segment that is very soon to come, possibly following this one. I believe the Almighty Father revealed to me when cataclysmic conditions become so great, the wicked will seek to save his life. And one of the things that will happen is it will not be, quote unquote, enough vaccines. It will not be, quote unquote, enough places of sanctuary. When they get to the point where they cannot quarantine everybody, then they start forming protection cells. They start finding caves or shelter where the rich will come together in places to protect them against those that do not have the wherewithal to have a compound protected, secured. Pray and watch. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters. We are witnessing something begin to evolve that will bring about the one world government. For as those that are extremely wealthy start going to their little hives or caves or big caves and luxurious safety points, some even will start retreating into the mountains. And you can research it. It's not fake news. There are underground condominiums in Colorado. There are even places where people have set up in the mountains of the Ozarks, believing this is where to go. For you, O Yashar'al, know this, there will be a drawing from the four corners of the earth. There will be those of us who will die for Yahusha's name. There will be those of us that are set in place to echo that Yahuah is indeed alive and that his plan is unfolding and explaining to those who are caught in widespread destruction and death. Make no mistake, my brothers and sisters. This may sound redundant. You may have heard something I've said before. With each segment, there is something addition. And in this segment, this is the first time I said that when extreme conditions such as disease is greater than they're able to quarantine, then they start building cells, shelters, compounds to protect themselves from those that are infected, opposed to trying to quarantine and round up everyone. But you, O Yashar'al, we have a job to do. There are tasks that must be done. There are those that will be called to specific places to echo the last words from the Almighty Father to those that are around, unlearned, maybe unbelieving. And there will be those of us who will be among the ranks of the 144,000 in great multitude, of which, when you compare it to the world population, will be a remnant. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, make no mistake, the issue of shelter is one that we are witnessing. Adapting and adjusting to changing shelter. From a house to an apartment to a trailer to tents to a location that has been promised, that is covered by the blood of the Lamb. We who have the seal of the Almighty Father, we who have been sealed for the purposes of fulfilling end-time prophecies will recognize who we are. And those among us who are sealed to be in specific places to echo the words of salvation and set apartness to our last breath. We who have the seal will understand what we must do, whether it be as martyrs, whether it be as the last words from the Almighty Father through us to those who are caught in widespread destruction, or whether it be among the ranks of those who will be gathered from the four corners of the earth. We have work to do. Let me read Ezekiel 36:22-24. It says, therefore say to the house of Yashar'al, thus says the Master Yahuah, I do not do this for your sake, O house of Yashar'al, but for my set-apart name's sake, which you have profaned among the nations wherever you went. And I shall set apart my great name, which has been profaned among the nations, which you have profaned in their midst. And the nations shall know that I am Yahuah, declares Master Yahuah, when I am set apart in you before their eyes. I shall take you from among the nations, and I shall gather you out of all the lands, and I shall bring you into your own land. In movement, my brothers and sisters, there will be refuge, there will be shelter, there will be those who are obedient, there will be those that are chosen. Discern preparations, my brothers and sisters, timing, leadership, and when to move. Though I've recirculated this slide, make no mistake, the words are not precisely the same. But I've spoken on this matter, my brothers and sisters. There will be intermittent movement. The time to discern set-apart leaders of Yashar'al is now. The time to discover when to prepare and when to act is now. The time to identify what you have been chosen to do is now. Know what to leave versus what to take. Please be advised, O Yashar'al, I cannot stress it enough. The battle of the crowns, coronaviruses, fighting against those who have received crowns, a seal on our head, forehead, the seal of the Almighty Father, the blood of the Lamb Yahusha. Deliverance come as we find ourselves awakening to that which is real and true. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, I cannot stress it enough. The time is now to draw close to the Almighty Father. Yes, my brothers and sisters, this one here is one I've presented. Let's consider the emergent evidence regarding extreme humbling conditions. Famine, food shortages have begun, and man has stuffed our foods with additives and fillers and chemicals to mask the food shortages because we have abused and neglected the land. Food shortages, famine is wrapping up. And whenever famine ramp up, no matter how much man has tried to hide it, we see as a result pestilence and diseases swelling up. And like I said, my brothers and sisters, add the different diseases. I've seen brothers say, well, pneumonia killed this many. I've even seen people, the disease and wickedness of abortion, people use that about many deaths. Add all the different wicked things that have occurred to kill off what is good and innocent, to destroy life. Add it all up, my brothers and sisters. This coronavirus is like that, one of the last frontiers. And I've heard people say that a virus is not going to try to kill its host. Wickedness kills wickedness, for it is divided against itself, and it will fall. Search the scriptures, my brothers and sisters. Pestilence and diseases are ramping up beyond just the coronaviruses and NCOV or COVID-19. Add them all up and tipping points come. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, discipline and judgment within the body of set-apart Yashar'al is here. Judgment has begun at the house of the Almighty Father to prepare us, to equip us with all that we need in order to endure until the end. There will be those rising up, chosen by the Almighty Father. Rising set-apart leadership has begun, and more. Do not reject the actions, the orders, the guidance from the Almighty Father. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, there will be those gathered and there will be those left behind. Though I may sound like a broken record, I say to you, O Yashar'al, make no mistake, the orders from the Almighty Father will be obeyed. And some of us who would like to say, well, they didn't obey. Well, they had freedom to do what they want to do. It's not about pointing to the other person. For the Most High has chosen those who will lead, those who will reinforce, those who will represent. And we will find what is necessary for us to humble, yield, discern, and obey those living orders. Some of us will receive it as our spirit stirs directly, and some of us will receive it as he works through his chosen leaders, guidance, counselors, elders, mentors. Those whom he has chosen are about to be identified. And sure, our emotions, our mental state will be challenged, but obedience come, O Yashar'al. This is something that I've shared, and I cannot stress enough, my brothers and sisters. Matthew 19:29, everyone who has left houses or brothers or sisters or father or mother or wife or children or lands for my name's sake shall receive 100-fold and shall inherit everlasting life. Make no mistake, we're getting ready to see this happening. And I say to you, O Yashar'al, it has already begun. It just may not be close enough to you for you to recognize that it's begun. Prepare to gird up, O Yashar'al. The promises of the Almighty Father are unfolding before our very eyes. And I share again Isaiah 11:12. And he shall raise a banner for the nations and gather the outcasts of Yashar'al and assemble the dispersed of Yehudah from the four corners of the earth. Knowing who and what to take in or leave behind will become crystal clear. There will be weeping, there will be sorrow. Focus forward, my brothers and sisters. Otherwise, you may find yourselves being overtaken with grief and depression. For there are those we thought would be among the ranks of individuals gathered, and we will see that their hearts and minds were not in the right place. Or we will see the fruit of their actions will cause them to face end times differently than we who are walking, looking, discerning, and obeying the instructions from the Almighty Father. I cannot stress enough, my brothers and sisters, the need to focus. In some cases, it might seem like threading a needle when you begin to look at the map of this coronavirus is spreading. And there are naysayers. There are those who would like to say, calm down, it's all right, because they're confused or lazy or wicked. I've witnessed brothers all over the place, trying to find their niche, quote unquote. I've even witnessed brothers, and this is nothing new, who believe the ministries that they are demonstrating are theirs. I heard one brother spend countless minutes trying to defend, quote unquote, their ministry. He even said, get your own. And I've heard many people say, well, get your own. What have we come to, O Yashar'al, to think that we own? White Rose Family, I share, is a plan that contributes and that will link up with other plans. It does not belong to me. You be the judge, O Yashar'al. Am I pushing something that is mine or something that belongs to the Almighty Father? Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, it's time for us to focus. Current conditions will prove to be a time to focus, a time to give the Almighty Father credit for all that is set apart, a time to lift up Yahusha Mashyach, a time to press forward, not spend time trying to convince someone behind me or stretching my neck one way or another, trying to look back on what they're saying about me. It's not about me, and it's not about you. It is about the name of the Almighty Father Yahuah. It is about He who is the Almighty One, the Aleph and the Tah. And we can only come to Him through Yahusha Mashyach, recognizing Him, His word manifest in the person of Yahusha, His word, sacrifice, the resurrection, the shed blood that brings about the seal of the Almighty Father Yahuah. His word that demonstrates and tell us that His set apart spirit came in and gave us life, and life everlasting to Yahusha Mashyach. We will understand, my brothers and sisters, in spite of the hardships, the challenges, the emotional attacks, the physical attacks, the conditions that rise up, that it's time for us to move towards the restoration of our crown, that dominion that the Almighty Father gave us, that dominion that I spoke of in the beginning here, my brothers and sisters, the dominion that the Almighty Father, when he created man, are we not aware, O Yashar'al, that when the Most High, in Genesis, when he created man to rule, here, my brothers and sisters, let me just say this again. See where I have highlighted Genesis 1:26. Let them rule over the fish of the sea, over the birds of the heavens, over the livestock, over all the earth, over all creeping creatures that creep on the ground. Yashar'al, we were assigned a dominion. We were given a crown. How many of us are aware that as we are awakened to who we are, as we are awakened to whom we belong to, the crown of the inward man will rise up. And as we find ourselves being used by the Almighty Father, a reflection of he who is the ultimate one, who wears the ultimate crown of life everlasting, Yahusha Mashyach, will emerge. And we will witness his physical return. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. Between now and then, let us learn how to focus and engage one another. At the bottom of the screen, you will see different terms that can be used in vetting and questioning and asking questions to identify those who are truly walking in obedience. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, I cannot stress enough the need to be alert. I cannot repeat and stress enough the importance of discerning. Discern and be ahead of the chaos that is coming. Know how to respond when it reaches your doorstep. Know whom to reach out to. Know whom to embrace and become close. Many of us are going to be surprised. There's a deliverer, O Yashar'al. Our deliverance come. And I say to you, chaos, civil unrest, economic upheaval have begun and will get worse. Hear these words, Yashar'al. I mentioned on more than one occasion, there are many mores, teachers, leaders, and bishops that we will see that will be cowards, undiscerning, unlearned. Some that are indeed really our brothers, they just got it pushed into the wrong position or took on a title that they shouldn't have. Or maybe there's time for that title to be passed on to someone else, for they don't know how to respond. What's interesting, my brothers and sisters, on this social media platform, I don't hear too many brothers and sisters talking about what to do in the wake of this rising coronavirus, COVID-19. I don't hear much talk about the disease and what should be done. And then I've heard brothers, and I've heard this on and off for years, brothers say, I'm not going to put out there on YouTube and the social media, on this dang on social media or doggone social media, I'm not going to put all my business out there. We're doing stuff. Well, just by saying we're doing something, you're putting something out there. Might even spark one's curiosity. But let me ask you, Yashar'al, do you believe it's going to be a final exodus? Do you believe the set-apart children of Yashar'al will be gathered from the four corners of the earth? Do you believe this will happen before the physical return of Yahushua Mashyach? Do you believe it would be similar to the exodus of Yashar'al during the time of Mashyach or Moses, when he led the children out of Egypt? Well, did we see Moshe say to Aaron, let us secretly go up and present these matters before Pharaoh, and let us secretly go to our family and friends and secretly put together a plan to leave Egypt? No, we didn't see that, my brothers and sisters. These are end times. Pray and watch. Now, are we to identify what the Most High is telling us to do? Sure, there would be some who may be like the finger. And maybe the Most High is giving all the instructions regarding the finger or the hand. Maybe the Most High is giving all the information for the hand and not having conversation with the wrist and the rest of the body. I get that. That might be occurring. But make no mistake, O Yashar'al, for the body to come together whole, the plan will be made public to those of the whole. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, Moses and Aaron, or Aharon, Mashyach and Aaron, they didn't hide the plan. They spoke it to the children of Yashar'al. They gave orders and instructions. We see where Moses' father-in-law and the elders came together. And we see structure and order as a great multitude left Egypt or Mitzrayim. So as it was in the past, my brothers and sisters, there will be echoes of instructions going forward now that will be openly presented. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, the Almighty Father knows his children. He knows whom he has chosen, and deliverance will come. Yashar'al, O Yashar'al, the closing scroll. As habitable places close up, it's like the walls closing in, forcing man to begin to look. And I say there's a list of things that must come to be. I'll briefly say this. 1, the world will acknowledge the true Abrahym, commonly known as Hebrews. The world will acknowledge those outside the Hebrews as the Gentiles. The world will acknowledge that a true Almighty Father exists. The world will come to recognize that the Almighty Father has a plan for his children. The world will even assist in our migration. And I believe those in the Western Hemisphere will come to the Commonwealth of Virginia, to the state of Virginia, and this will be the exit point. I believe the ultimate destination will be situated with focus on the set-apart mountain, the true Mount Sinai, currently known as Jabal. And I believe, my brothers and sisters, soon and very soon we will see leaders of the Almighty Father speak to the world leaders and say, this is what you must do. You see, my brothers and sisters, the wicked one, the ultimate wicked one, Hashatan, Satan, he knows that the anti-Messiah cannot take his full and rightful place as his ultimate pawn, him and the false prophet. Satan knows this cannot happen until he that restrained is moved out the way. That is us, O Yashar'al, as I read 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 7. And as we see all the conditions that dominate movement towards a cashless society, towards a one world government, towards all the moving parts that will bring about what is prophesied, make no mistake, the children of Yashar'al, we are seeing the things that are necessary for us to come together in unity. Ask questions. Coronaviruses, battles and losing ground. Now, some of you might say, he got on there battles, coronaviruses, battles and losing ground. It seems like it's gaining ground. You see, my brothers and sisters, it's about perception. The coronavirus might be gaining ground, but as it brings about physical death, as it began to chase people away from areas that were once habitable, and man started to look for places that they can live that are livable to escape the diseases, plural, then I say there's one side gaining ground physically. There's another side losing ground, for it's losing living beings as a result of diseases. It is also losing ground as we are awakened from the spiritual side, as we are awaking, as we rise up and embrace the assigned dominion, the crown that the Almighty Father has given us to rule, as it is written in Genesis, as we rise up in the power and might of the Almighty Father Yahuah in Yahusha's name. Then we see that in that power and that strength, it's beyond the physical as we see it now. There's something that's unfolding, that's leading us to that time where there will be a new heaven and a new Jerusalem, a new earth. Pray and watch, my brothers and sisters. Make no mistake, do not be overtaken by the deniers of those who are willing to soften things down to get you to be lazy. This is the time to focus. Obstacles will be removed, and our eyes and ears will be open to see whom we must come away from and not give the time of day. And those who are wrong, who are our brothers and sisters, they have a promise of discipline from the Almighty Father. We will be disciplined. We will be refined. On that note, O Yashar'al, stay tuned. There's so much to present. There's so much work to be done. If you're receiving anything that remotely sounds like life, that is encouraging, that draws you closer to the Almighty Father Yahuah, in the name of Yahusha, let us lift him up through our worship and obedience. Consider subscribing. Consider sharing with others. My name is Symmanayah. This is the closing scroll, part 7. Make no mistake, O Yashar'al, evidence and proof is rising before our very eyes. On that note, I salute your patience, your tolerance, your pursuit of set apartness. And my prayer is that the Almighty Father gives you strength. Give us strength to endure. For many challenges are ahead. In the name of Yahusha, I come to you, O listener, O viewer, O set apart child of the Almighty Father. I come to you and I bid you, Shalum.